But one thing's certain, these technologies are on a collision course with the powers that be of today, and neither side is backing down. At the forefront of that struggle are government regulators who have taken a number of widely varying approaches to dealing with their little crypto problem. Our next guest, United States Congressman Warren Davidson, is one of a handful of politicians who actually understand this technology and just how much good it can do for America. You may be shocked as he shares the power struggle going on at the highest levels of our government and terrified by some of the things that could be done with this technology in the wrong hands. From your kind of inside perspective, I think a lot of people are concerned that, crypto's too disruptive, that, the government's going to come in and shut it down. Is that even a realistic possibility at this point?
Well, some of my colleagues certainly want that to be the case, and they look to China for other things too. I mean, they're kind of authoritarian in their approach. They don't see themselves that way. But look, China wants to control their economy. They want to use money and their payment system as a means of control over their population. What should money be used as? It should be used as a store of value and a means of exchange. That's really the part that the federal government is most focused on. My fear is that they're so focused on that they kill the use cases that could come from permissionless transactions. So let me differentiate that. So permissionless like cash, right? So if I pull out my old school leather wallet and give you $20, I could trade you $20 for something that we agree on. There's no third party to the transaction, your bank, my bank, the federal government, anybody else. If you, however, use a bank account, well, there's a third party involved. And this brings in the third party doctrine. And the federal government uses that third party doctrine to essentially spy on all the financial transactions. And that's how we solve lots of crimes. That's how we keep the country safe from terrorism. It's how we enforce sanctions and all kinds of things. And so there are people that are very fearful that America's power of the dollar as the world's reserve currency could be undermined by some other system. Now, the reality is there is another system. It's developing anyway. And even with the cash, they don't stop it. I mean, the bigger problem is already cash. It's not the crypto. Crypto is literally traceable. That's how they solved the Colonial Pipeline case, for example. So those are the people that are most fearful and the best argument for why they want to take it down. Some of the other arguments aren't as good, and it's simply that, well, this would disrupt banks, and banks don't want to be disrupted.
Do you think we'll see a central bank digital currency?
It's still so early that a lot of people don't really even know what a central bank digital currency is. People in this space probably do, but a lot of my colleagues are like, what is this that they're talking about? And, there in theory could be a way to do a central bank digital currency that's like Bitcoin. It has all the properties. It's an immutable distributed ledger. It establishes trust in the same sort of way. It's not a centralized database. But what's gaining traction is a central bank digital currency where the central bank, not your bank, but the federal government, controls the money very directly. They control the deposits, and they could therefore filter transactions. This is the system that China is working on, and it's the creepiest surveillance tool known to man, and they're coupling it with their social credit score. So people don't get credit based on their ability to repay, but on whether or not the Chinese Communist Party thinks they're good citizens or not. Now, as crazy as it is, there are some of my colleagues who look to that kind of system with envy because it gives the Chinese Communist Party a lot of control over their society. And if we don't develop an alternative to that, if we just develop something that's similar and competes with China's version, the whole planet's going to be dominated with that kind of money. What we really want is hard currency. Why is the US dollar the reserve currency? It's viewed as the best representation for, oil. You think about the petrodollar, all the commodities, not just oil, are settled in dollars globally. And so there's a strong desire to have this. And historically, money flows to the hardest currency. You see Bitcoin being adopted even as legal tender in El Salvador, and a lot of interest in it in other countries. Why would that be? Well, because it's very hard currency. You don't see central banks diluting the value of it by creating massive new supplies. All these kinds of things will undermine the US dollar if we don't change course. We could embrace something that's like Bitcoin with a central bank digital currency. It would restore privacy, and it would create America as a haven for investment, where instead of an authoritarian system that's going to create a creepy surveillance tool, you would do what America has done that's attracted people from all over the world anyway. We're the land of opportunity. We defend freedom. We're not an oppressive surveillance state. And I think that's one of the most high stakes policy debates we're having right now is whether or not to have a central bank digital currency or a digital dollar for simplicity. And if we did, what would be the nature of it?
What do you see happening right now that gives you the most hope?
Well, there is Bitcoin. And if you look at the space, it's soaked up $2.5 trillion, not just Bitcoin itself, but blockchain and the broader crypto world that it's inspired, soaked up $2.5 trillion of value. Now, that would have probably gone somewhere, but look at our stock market. It's already, people think, look at the price to earnings ratios. They're massively inflated. It's creating the distortion of the money that I just talked about with the Federal Reserve. Ray Dalio's the guy, big hedge fund manager, Bridgewater Capital, said cash is trash. What did he mean? Governments are destroying cash. So you have to take that cash and put it into something else. It has to be put into something that's going to prove to be a store of value. That's why the appeal of the biggest, most successful companies, because the economy is going to still depend on things like Google existing. Real estate still going to be there. But some of the other commodities like gold haven't really seen the same run. Part of it is because there's an alternative asset class that's more liquid. And so when you look at the liquidity that's available in crypto, not only can it serve as a store of value, it can be highly liquid. And to me, it has the prospect of restoring some level of privacy to our financial system. But beyond that, the number of use cases that are being inspired. I look at America, look historically, we're 5% of the world's population. We have like 25% of the world's GDP, but we have over 50% of the invested capital in our capital markets. How do we do that? If you go back to the agricultural revolution, America led, the industrial revolution, America led, we created the automobile age, the aviation age, the aerospace age, computing, led the internet revolution, and now it's really the era is fintech. You look at all the financial innovation in the world, and we're poised to really lead in that too, but Congress can't get the clarity. The regulators can't provide the clarity. And if we do not take action, we're going to miss this moment. The innovation's still going to happen. There's just no guarantee it's going to happen in America. What
can, the average American person do to, be a part of this and kind of create, to just contribute to this movement? And
well, I think one thing, if you find a use case that you're passionate about, whether that's Bitcoin or any number of the other products that are out there that are in the space, that as a system like Solana or something like that, Ether, people are passionate about XRP. But there are things like Helium where they're trying to create a decentralized cell phone network. There are charities that are out there raising money this way. Find a use case and host your own node. And people say, what does host your own node mean? Well, most people have an account-based relationship with their bank or their retirement savings or their cell phone carrier or anything else. The real potential for this is permissionless systems, and that comes from actually hosting something yourself and engaging and participating in it, and you can earn rewards for doing it, but you really help it exist, and it exists in a more resilient way. So I think host your own node, whatever use case you're most passionate about, and then get connected to elected officials so that they understand what you're doing and why it's important and why it really has the chance to change the world.